Hey, Sarah, can you just go to the next slide for me? Thank you. Again, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to those who may be joining us on the recording. My name is Stephanie. I will be your moderator today. Welcome to another NICER National Institute for Congestion Reduction webinar. Today's presentation topic is supporting transportation professional growth through TDM-CP certification. Let me very quickly introduce our two speakers for today. Our first speaker will be Sarah Hendricks. She has worked in the field of transportation demand management for most of her career. At CUTR, she has conducted research on topics including transportation concurrency, growth management, incorporating TDM into land development process, transit fare payment mobile apps, and the evaluation studies on driving safety and carpool incentivation technologies. As a member of the Association for Commuter Transportation, she serves on the Certification Board of Trustees and it serves as a member of the Public Policy Committee. David Strauss has the honor of serving as the executive director of the Association of Commuter Transportation, the premier organization for transportation demand management. With more than 2 decades of experience and leadership in the field, David brings a deep understanding and commitment to the issues and challenges facing the TDM professionals and the organizations they serve. David is a member of the Transportation Research Board's TDM committee and serves on the advisory board of the National Institute for Transportation and Communities. With that, it is my pleasure to hand the presentation over to Sarah. Sarah, take it away.
Thank you, Stephanie. So, hello, everybody. I'm Sarah Hendricks. I'm going to start off by saying that this NICER project has been a partnership between the USF Center for Urban Transportation Research and the Association for Commuter Transportation. So NICER projects require a match, and the Association for Commuter Transportation, also known as ACT, provided the match to enable us to provide this education and workforce development project. Just a couple words first about CUTR and our background. We were really pleased to provide the technical support to ACT in this project, and we were well prepared to develop the exam materials. We've drawn from our over 30 years of experience doing TDM research. We offer the Florida Commuter Choice Certificate Program and the Social Marketing Certificate Program, which provides foundational TDM knowledge. We also provide the Florida statewide TDM clearinghouse that serves as a technical resource for implementing TDM strategies. And we also conduct evaluation and benchmarking for TDM service delivery. And we developed the TMA handbook, which is a guide to operating successful transportation management associations, which is still in use today. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to David Strauss.
Excellent. Take control. All righty. It's a great pleasure to be here today, and want to thank the whole team at NICER for enabling this project. It's been in the works the last 12 months. We're extremely lucky to have Sarah and the rest of the team at CUTR involved in this effort, really taking those decades of expertise in the field and research to help in the development of these study guide materials. While I know some of you here may be familiar with ACT, I'm certain there are others that are not, so I just want to take a quick moment to introduce ourselves. The Association for Commuter Transportation is the premier organization for the advancement of transportation demand management, and our goal is to build a strong network of individuals and organizations working to implement TDM within their communities and their work sites. We champion the use of TDM through the gathering and dissemination of best practices, influence of policies and regulations, and the establishment of standards for excellence and knowledge. We currently have 1,700 members that represent city and state DOTs, major employers, universities, MPOs, transit agencies, transportation service providers, and other stakeholders that are focused on creating a better journey for everyone. And most importantly, actually, well, not most importantly, but just as important, this last year we launched a new student membership program where membership is free for all students. So I know there's many universities on the call today. I encourage you to let your students know about this opportunity to be a part of this professional association. So we provide our membership with valuable professional development opportunities, dozens of virtual and in-person events throughout the year, including our annual international conference that's typically brings together 650 plus people from around the globe. Next year we'll be in New Orleans in August, as well as our upcoming TDM forum that's going to be held in Charlotte this actually starting on Tuesday. So there's still time to join us if you're in the area. ACT supports career growth from the moment an individual is inspired to join through their retirement, providing members with mentoring, leadership development, and our professional certification via this TDM-CP exam. We've now got close to 100 individuals that have a credential, an active credential, I think of 125 plus that have earned it over the last 4 years. We also work to advance the entire industry through advocacy and influence of federal, state, and local TDM policies. This year, we succeeded in including a GAO report on the use of TDM strategies at airports within the FAA reauthorization bill, and now we're focused on pulling together new proposals and ideas for the next iteration of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which comes up for renewal in 2025, along with new policies and programs for the next authorization bill that comes up in 2026. So to set the table for Sarah, who will go into a bit more detail on this, transportation demand management is a broad umbrella of strategies that aims to create the most efficient multimodal transportation system that moves all people, with the goal of reducing congestion, improving air quality, and stimulating economic activity. The diversity of the strategies is what really makes makes TDM so impactful. At its core, TDM is all about providing real options for all people. While historically this has been a significant focus on the commute trip, the pandemic really made it clear that TDM programs must actively engage in developing solutions for all trips and all people, creating a transportation system that is both efficient as well as equitable. TDM is is also about reducing traffic congestion by shifting people's mode choice away from single occupancy modes, improving air quality through shifting our dependence on carbon-based fuels, and connecting people to jobs and supporting strong economic activity. So with now onto the TDM-CP, the Transportation Demand Management Certified Professional Credential and Exam. The TDM-CP is the first and only professional certification program for the field of TDM. It is something that ACT was originally established back in the mid-'80s to develop and create. It took us 3 decades to get there. With a lot of help and encouragement from some of the folks on the call, especially Phil Winters at CUTR, to make this happen and become a reality, launching now 5 years ago. Oops, I keep forgetting that I gotta change that. The TDM-CP exam was created around the following concepts. Most importantly, demonstrating the ability to demonstrate a TDM professional's competency within the field by developing a standard for assessment and measurement of knowledge by and through a formal examination. The exam itself is 120 questions. 100 of those questions are scored items. The remaining 20 are pilot test items. An individual has 3 hours to take the exam, and it covers a wide range of topics and themes from planning and policy to program management and performance measurement. The exam recognizes and provides an incentive for individuals to continually improve their knowledge of TDM concepts, policies, and practices. Any and all individuals that are meeting the base standard requirements of years of employment in the field combined with education can sit for the exam. It also enhances an individual's professional development and leadership by taking on positions of leadership within the organization and other organizations, and serving as subject matter experts, writing articles and mentoring and creating content, to encourage that continued investment and support and within the field itself. Earning the credential promotes continuing education of relevant subject matter that is evidence-based, and a robust but achievable set of continuing education requirements has been established, and this requires certificates to earn 60 credits over 2 years between professional development and leadership categories. And professional development is everything from attending ACT and non-ACT events, workshops, webinars, and other learning activities that are available to them. So the current status of the credential, we currently have 96 TDM-CPs, 128 have earned the credential over the 5 years. We've had several individuals, especially right out of the gate, who had been in the field a long time and had been waiting for this credential, who earned it and ultimately retired within the first couple of years, as well as others who have earned the credential and have moved on to other fields and opportunities and have let it lapse. It's one of the interesting aspects of TDM is the breadth of backgrounds and experiences that come into the field. So there's many that pass through and find other areas. The exam is governed by the Certification Board of Trustees, which Sarah is a part of. It's a board of 15 individuals that oversee the exam. They review the items within the exam and update those on a periodic basis. They develop exam preparation materials. They review and create the recertification activities, and do overall marketing and promotion of the exam. From a pass-fail standpoint, the exam was designed to have somewhere around an 80% pass-fail rate. We currently stand at around 70%, which was a drop from where we had originally been. Some of this is now that it's open to the a broader interest of folks. We've seen it prove to be a little more challenging than we had first anticipated, and we're currently going through a review of the exam and updating items as we speak, and we'll be launching an updated exam in the new year. So now I'm going to pass things back over to Sarah and let her carry on.
Okay, great. Thank you, David. So I thought it would be good to just start by talking a little bit more about what TDM is. From the standpoint of the NICER program, the NICER program recognizes that reducing traffic congestion while also improving access and mobility is going to require a combination of coordinated activities. And that includes a lot of things. It certainly includes capacity improvements. It includes transportation systems management and operations strategies. And it also includes the use of transportation demand management strategies. So some transportation professionals who might be briefly familiar with TDM may think of it as providing basically a ride matching service to promote carpooling. And TDM does include ride matching and carpooling, but it's a lot more than that. So the Federal Highway Administration has described TDM as a set of strategies aimed at maximizing traveler choices. And a moment ago, David shared ACT's definition of TDM, and there is more descriptive information about this specialty that can be found on the ACT website. So because, as David had said, TDM encompasses a diversity of strategies, it's helpful to provide more description here. So TDM includes a lot of different things like programs, services, incentives, disincentives, outreach, amenities, and partnerships. And all these remove barriers to the use of a wider set of travel choices. TDM seeks to influence travel decisions by several dimensions, and these include your choice of mode, trip distance, trip frequency, trip time of day or day of week, and route. And so it also helps to compare TDM with transportation systems management and operations and to draw a few distinctions because there is some degree of overlap between TSMO and TDM. So again, according to FHWA, TSMO is a set of strategies that focuses on operational improvements that can maintain and even restore the performance of the existing transportation system before extra capacity is needed. The goal is to get the most performance out of the transportation facilities that we already have. And there are a few examples of TSMO, like, for example, managed lanes, ramp metering, variable speed limits, signal coordination. TSMO strategies tend to apply technologies to channel motor vehicle traffic in real time and sometimes influence motorist decision-making in the moment during the trip, such as congestion pricing and real-time information. FHWA categorizes TDM as a subset of TSMO. TDM strategies are placed more upstream before the trip has even started, and this is by influencing decisions about whether to travel, when to depart, choosing your price of travel, your mode selection, and even earlier decisions like buying a bicycle or choosing to live along a bus route. So as an example of how TDM fits into TSMO, congestion pricing includes high occupancy toll lanes, hot lanes. TDM programs can be paired with managed lanes by providing incentives to carpool or vanpool to take the express bus to gain the benefit of the hot lane at a discounted price or free. And so TDM tends to be more human-centered. The strategies anticipate the need of travelers, and this is to encourage alternative travel choices. And another example of this is that most TDM programs provide a guaranteed ride home for commuters who use alternatives to driving alone. And this guaranteed ride home could either be a taxi or a transportation network company ride, just in case somebody's carpool or vanpool ride falls through or due to an emergency and they have to leave work. So TDM is also, it's quick to implement and it's low cost. So for example, building a bridge can take 20 plus years. TSMO strategies can take anywhere from several months to a few years to implement. TDM tends to be anywhere from a few weeks to a few months to launch. So it's quite quick to implement. And so here are a few examples of how TDM is applied. So at the various levels, federal, state, regional, local, and even below local, starting at federal. So federal law prescribes the metropolitan planning process, and each metropolitan planning organization that serves a population over 200,000 has to conduct a congestion management process. So federal law also identifies eligible uses of federal funding, including strategies that reduce the demand for travel. And historically, TDM program goals have focused on reducing single occupant vehicle travel or driving alone and encouraging carpooling, vanpooling, using public transportation, walking, bicycling, telecommuting, and using flexible work hours to reduce the number of motor vehicles on the road during these peak hours of congestion. TDM is also an eligible strategy as part of transportation management plans that have to be devised and implemented to reduce delay during reconstruction of highways that are federally funded. As part of federal transportation reauthorization bills, there are several federal funding sources for which TDM strategies are eligible. And then at the state level, one example is Washington State that has a statewide commute trip reduction law that's required to be implemented in urbanized areas with traffic congestion. And the law requires employers of a certain size to encourage the use of alternative travel modes for the commute to work. And there's also a requirement to survey the employees every 2 years to track their progress in reducing SOV travel. And then the state of New Jersey has taken another approach by requiring employers to offer qualified transportation fringe benefits. And this is enabled by the Internal Revenue Service tax code. It's also known as pre-tax commuter benefits to the employees. And these are things like transit subsidy or van pool subsidy, or to just set aside an amount of gross income for commuter travel, the expenses of commuter travel pre-tax. And then at the regional level, often in air quality non-attainment areas, there are TDM programs that target trip reduction to improve air quality, such as the use of federal congestion mitigation and air quality program funds, also known as CMAQ, for van pool programs. And then at the local government level, there can be as one example, trip reduction ordinances that are focused on either the land development process or focused on working with employers to influence employee travel, to put programs and services and amenities in place to reduce motor vehicle trips. There's also parking ordinances that regulate parking supply, location, and price of parking that can also influence travelers to use alternatives to single occupant vehicle travel. And then at the sub-local level, there are locations that are often referred to as activity centers. These are hubs of employment that draw traffic at certain times and experience a lot of traffic congestion. And TDM strategies are often implemented through public-private partnerships known as transportation management organizations or transportation management associations. These are typically partnerships of government and private sector employers that coordinate the provision of services and programs and incentives, again, to reduce congestion. And then finally, at the employer level, there's a national program that awards an elite designation to employers who provide outstanding commuter benefits to their employees. It's known as Best Workplaces for Commuters, and it enables workers to get to and from work without having to depend on a car. And so in becoming a professional transportation engineer or transportation planner, TDM is often not a topic that is covered in depth. So as a result, few people have any sort of formal education about TDM. And so they often learn about the toolbox of TDM strategies on the job. So prior to the development of the guide, ACT had a compilation of some study materials. However, the exam preparation committee of the ACT Certification Board of Trustees found that this compilation effort has been a slow process, and it's partly due to relying upon volunteer efforts to contribute materials. And then also that the TDM Board of Trustees also had observed that many TDM professionals were perhaps hesitant to take the TDM exam, and they desired more study resources. And so to address these concerns and accelerate the development of a TDM-CP exam study guidebook, the TDM-CP Board of Trustees approved allocating funds as a match to our NYSER grant to accelerate this preparation of the TDM-CP exam study guidebook. And so part of the mission of NYSER is education and workforce development. And the purpose of the project is to support the career development of transportation professionals and elevate the standards of practice of TDM by providing comprehensive study materials that TDM candidates can use to prepare for the exam. And so TDM practitioners cannot know everything. Because of the breadth of this field, people come to the field with a variety of backgrounds, and then they work together collaboratively. So the exam is designed to ensure that someone with a TDM-CP has a minimum level of knowledge and is conversant in many topics to enable effective collaboration. So the challenge of the task is a shared understanding that the field of TDM encompasses a wide range of topics, and most TDM professionals with several years of work experience have specialized in certain areas, and therefore it's recognized that few TDM professionals have both breadth and depth of knowledge. So the aim of the content of the study guide is to ensure that those preparing for the TDM-CP exam know the rudiments of key topic areas. They understand how the TDM field integrates with the wider field of transportation planning, engineering, and service delivery, and know how to navigate key information sources. And so what you see on the screen are the 4 domains of study areas that the exam encompasses. So domain 1 is the foundations of TDM, and that takes a deep dive into a bunch of different topics, including federal transportation policy. It also includes transportation planning and operations, principles of behavior change, sustainability and resilience, marketing and sales, economic development, and delivery mechanisms for TDM programming. So our NYSER project prepared materials for domain 1. But let me just give you a really quick overview of the remainder of these other 3 topics that TDM professionals must study. So domain 1 is program planning and development that includes conducting needs or gap analysis studies and navigating the many available secondary data sources, as well as data collection techniques. Domain 2 also includes data analysis and interpretation, performing cost-benefit analyses and calculating return on investment, finding funding sources and proposal development, and then service contracting. Then domain 3 is program management, and that includes implementing communication and outreach, relationship management with customers, stakeholders, and vendors, and financial management. And then finally, domain 4 is program performance and monitoring, and that includes the selection and application of performance metrics, monitoring, and reporting. There we go. Did I go too far? I thought I clicked twice. Sorry. Okay. So TDM professionals often enter the field providing content, knowledge, experience, and skills in a particular area, and then they work with others of different backgrounds and skill sets. So while TDM professionals are often expert in a particular area, they have to be familiar and conversant with other knowledge areas to understand how their work fits into the program and how to discuss issues with others and supervise diverse staff when they enter a management position. So we surveyed ACT members, and we found that 46% of survey respondents work for the public sector. This includes federal, state, regional, and local governments. 33% work in the private for-profit sector, and this includes consulting companies. And 14% are employed with a private not-for-profit, tax-exempt, or charitable organization. And you can see in the table that program administration, planning, and outreach are the 3 top primary job functions listed by TDM professionals who responded to the survey. But other job functions can include things like analysis, marketing, sustainability-related work, design, grant seeking, and administration. And so as a result, the content of the exam study guide is concentrated on key principles, definitions. It makes distinctions between related concepts. It provides case studies and use cases. And it also provides a list of selective references to delve further into the subject matter. And so the preparation of the exam study guide materials began with a review of the existing recommended reading list in the TDM-CP handbook. Then we administered a survey monkey to the ACT membership to solicit feedback about what topics should be prioritized. The exam preparation committee decided upon 6 subdomains within domain 1, and these were federal legislation and funding programs, transportation systems management and operations, transportation planning and modeling, economic development, behavior change, and commuter transportation issues. And so for each subdomain, content objectives and a list of initial references were drafted. And then from there, we developed the draft content, and the drafts went through an extensive review process with the exam preparation committee, and then a second review from the Certification Board of Trustees before they voted to approve its release. And this release was launched to the ACT membership this past summer, the 2024 International ACT Conference in Denver. And the materials are, they're shown on the screen. They're available as drop-down menus on the ACT website to view and download the respective resources on the ACT website. And each one of these chapters, it's about 10 pages long on average. And on the exam, typically there are just a few questions touching upon each topic of each subdomain. And so to provide some more information about the chapter content, transportation systems management and operations, as shown in the gray table to the left, includes the role that TDM can play in the congestion management process. And we go into depth on variably priced parking and dynamic parking, since parking supply and location and pricing can strongly influence a commuter's travel decisions. And then under transportation planning and modeling, the blue table to the right, TDM professionals need a working familiarity with travel demand models and transportation planning at different scales. And then economic development, the beige table to the left, there are many economic development strategies that TDM can complement. And these are things like transit-oriented development, support for the delivery of micro-mobility and micro-transit services, and the use of trip reduction ordinances to address trips generated by land development as well as trips generated at the employment site. And these trip reduction ordinances can be implemented at various scales, including at the municipal level and the regional level. And also the green table on the right provides an overview of some of the federal laws, funding sources, and executive orders that affect the delivery of TDM programs. And then lastly, TDM strategies are developed to influence travel behavior change. And so understanding explanatory behavior change models helps guide the development of TDM programs that will resonate with specific markets and audiences. And that was the emphasis of the behavior change chapter described in the gray table to the left. The behavior change chapter also discusses social marketing, and social marketing combines behavior change theory with marketing concepts. And this is to help develop the development of more effective programming. And then in the blue table, this is a chapter on current transportation issues. And TDM professionals, of course, need to be conversant and up to date in current issues. And it's anticipated that over time, the study materials for the TDM-CP exam will need to be examined and updated. And the chapter on current transportation issues will certainly require periodic updating. And so this has been a presentation on the NYSER project, results of the development of exam study materials for the TDM-CP professional certification. And so we're excited to offer this product to support the career development of transportation professionals in the field of TDM. And now if there's any questions, we can discuss. Thanks for your attention.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah and David, for all of the great information. Just as a quick reminder, you can utilize either the chat or the Q&A box to submit any number of questions for today's presentation. Sarah and David, we did receive a number of questions through the registration process that I wanted to sort of start with
Oh,
before we get into the any questions that may show up in the chat window. One of the questions says, is there data on how many job postings require or preferred TDM-CP certification?
Uh,
how many? Go ahead.
yeah, I don't have a hard number off the top of my head, but we do have, um, there are a growing number. It's one of those chicken and egg pieces out there where people get hesitant to put in requirements or things until there's a larger pool of individuals to be selecting from. But we do see more, especially consulting firms, adding in TDM-CP, desired, preferred within their job postings. And I know there are several positions that are currently open or have recently been posted on the ACT job board that uh, do seek or do include TDM-CP within their job description. No one requires it yet, but it's something that's seen as it's a nice to have.
I know you sort of addressed this question in the presentation, but I did want to just review it again. It says, what specific skills and knowledge areas does the TDM-CP certification focus on, and how does it support professionals in addressing challenges like reducing commuter costs or improving employee retention?
Hmm. Okay, well, certainly, so the TDM-CP exam and the study materials for preparing for the exam were intentionally developed to, particularly domain one, look broadly at all the different fundamentals of TDM. So there were several topics that we concentrated our study materials on, including various traffic engineering principles having to do with highway capacity analysis, because transportation management professionals typically work with traffic engineers and transportation planners, oftentimes in settings relating to analyzing traffic impact of proposed land development, and also transportation systems management and operations, where there's an existing typically an existing problem with traffic congestion, and there's a need to figure out both both long-term results, but also short-term results as well, to try to get traffic flowing again, as well as developing alternatives that improve mobility and access. And so, from the standpoint of job retention, employers are becoming more understanding, maybe part of because of the pandemic. They're a lot more sensitive, or becoming more sensitive, to the needs of their employees, and recognizing that the commute to work can be highly stressful, and they can lose employees if the commute to work is too long, or too much of an aggravation. And so employers are recognizing the need to provide benefits relating to the commute to work, and they're recognizing that commuter assistance related programs and services can fill that need, and make the lives of their employees easier, make employees happier and more productive in the workplace.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. David, did you want to say anything before I read the next question?
Yeah, I was just going to add that, one of the interesting pieces with TDM in the field and the people who come into it really pulls from a wide spectrum of backgrounds. One of the things we saw in developing TDM-CP is that, a good portion of the people within the field did not go to school to study transportation or planning, that they came in through other other pathways. And, so a lot of folks come in and they may be focused on the implementation of commuter benefits program at their work site, and they don't have a full grasp of how do those programs come to be that you may be promoting and participating within your region or your city through their perhaps CMAQ funded grant projects that come through funding from a federal transportation authorization bill. And so one of the things that I think with TDM-CP, you know, and especially with some of these new study guides that have been developed, is people are starting to get a greater understanding of how that flow of policies and programs and funding at the federal level make their way down to you being successful as a employee transportation coordinator within your work site at the very local level. And I think it's an area that as a field and industry we have to improve upon to get everyone understanding that interconnectedness, and how TDM to be very successful has to actually have things happening at the local level, the state level, the federal level to really succeed. And these materials are helping advance that understanding.
Great, thank you. Here's another question that talks about um, sort of recertification of your uh, TDM CP. So is this once a staffer is TDM CP certified, about how many hours a year does it take to maintain that certification through professional development activities that qualify for credit? And then does it have to be certified? And I'll just add a follow-up, does it have to be certified every year or biannually, or any information that you can provide about that?
Yeah. So the certification period is 2 years, and during that time, individuals have to earn 60 credits. It's 30 credits in professional development and 30 credits in leadership. On the professional development side, for instance, attending the international conference earns you 20 credits. It's 2/3 of the way there. But you can earn credits for watching a webinar, participating in chapter or council meetings or workshops or outside organizational events that have a transportation focus. And then on the leadership side, it's things like writing content and blog posts, participating in conversations and mentoring, judging, award certifications. From a time commitment, it can really vary. Um, I we've never really done how many hours did people have to spend, but in some ways, it I would say it's completely manageable as a professional certification. And it's probably doing things that you are already doing as part of your job and staying engaged within the field and, growing yourself as a professional within TDM. And so it wouldn't necessarily have to be a lot of new stuff that you would need to be adding on, as
Great.
long as you plan it out.
Great. That's a great helpful hint. Okay, so here's a couple other questions that came in during the registration process. It says, our TDM measure our TDM measure effectiveness differ from region to region based on making behavior or commuters?
Not sure I fully get the question. Is it
So does it have to do with, do some regions perform better than others?
Maybe.
With regard, okay, well, if that was the gist of the question, certainly there are some places that do, in various metrics like share of single occupant vehicle travel or share of, for example, vehicle trips or vehicle miles traveled. There's a number of different kinds of metrics that are used to measure the success of transportation demand management based on whatever the goals are, whether it be, improving air quality, reducing emissions, reducing traffic congestion, or improving mobility. And we find that different urban, particularly urban areas, have various problems at different scales and different degrees. And TDM programs that some are stronger than others. So based on those different variables, some programs come out, really strong. For example, probably, some of the most congested urban areas in the United States tend to also have really serious transportation management programs, like the Washington, D.C. area, or, for example, in various cities in the Puget Sound area of Washington State. Because they have a trip reduction law that works very well, and their single occupant vehicle mode share has hovered around 60%, which is a lot better than the national average.
Great, thank you, Sarah. And this other question says, can you talk about what the preparation process might look like for someone who has been practicing in one area of TDM, for example, either communications or behavior change for many years, but is not involved with transportation planning?
Yep. I would say one thing to remember is the exam has 120 questions spread across these 4 domain areas. And then as you look at the actual structure of those domains, there's subdomains. And so every area within the subdomain has 1 to 2 questions that are being asked about it. So you may, know that there are some aspects of the exam that you may not be engaged with at all, and you'll want to focus your studies in that area, but do always understand that there's 1 or 2 questions that are being asked. So it's not that you're going to have 25 questions on the ins and outs of traffic engineering on the exam. And the pass rate, to pass the exam, it's, I don't remember what it is. I mean, you don't have to get every question you don't have to get anywhere near every question on the exam correct in order to pass the exam itself. So I would just really focus on the areas of that you may not be fully engaged with, but don't stress about, trying to know it all, because we're not asking about it all. And the exam itself, along, with most professional certification exams, it's about base understanding. It is designed for individuals that have 2 to 3 years experience in the field. And so it's not about being the top expert in the field. It's base understanding of the key aspects of what it takes to be a successful TDM professional.
And I would also add that ACT membership provides a lot of opportunities to study. And what I had found when I took the exam that was particularly helpful was joining a study group. And we would get together once every couple of weeks and just go over the materials. And I found that very helpful too, if you can find somebody to study with.
Great, thank you. It says, do you have any data sources to say how much traffic is reduced by various TDM programs, and how much traffic reductions or increases impact congestion? How many fewer cars in a lane, time reduced for congestion, delay, for example?
Yeah, well, the Federal Highway Administration has a number of sources on their website. A lot of TDM related documents and reports that go into in quite a lot of detail the degree to which various types of TDM strategies can reduce traffic congestion, reduce the number of trips. So I would highly recommend that. There's a couple documents that I would recommend. So one is integrating demand management into the transportation planning process, which is a desk reference. There's also one that has to do with strengthening linkages between TDM as well as traffic management. So there's case studies in there that talk about the impact of TDM on that. And then more recently, there was a very interesting study that talked about city level parking cash out and the degree to which there was a modeling effort that gauged the degree to which traffic congestion, vehicle miles traveled, vehicle trips would be reduced. So that's another really good source to find some specific numbers, some estimates.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. We're going to just take a couple other questions and then we'll wrap up. I did put the evaluation on the screen. If you could take a few moments to complete that, that feedback is very important. So the next question is, what kind of educational background do people in the TDM profession have?
Yeah, as I was saying, they come from a wide range of backgrounds. We do have a percentage, probably a large percentage that are transportation, community development, urban planning backgrounds, but we have individuals, especially with a big focus on marketing and behavior change that are on that kind of communications, marketing side of an education. Um, there's really a broad range of diverse educational fields that come into TDM. And one of the things I've always loved about the industry, the field itself, is that when people find TDM as a career, they tend to stay in it and really get into the mission of what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think there was a couple years ago, there was a survey done by some TDM professionals that were members of ACT, and they had participated in an annual leadership training that ACT conducts. It's called Impact, and these participants in these leadership trainings do group projects. And one of the projects I recall conducted a survey of the ACT membership to find out, what their backgrounds were. And from what I remember, it seemed like there was a lot of people that had, of course, transportation and planning and public administration degrees, but also there were people that had degrees in engineering, degrees in political science, business, history. I think one thing that I'm seeing more and more as I meet new people in the TDM profession is they come from a background in environmental science because they recognize that transportation demand management has a lot of potential for addressing air quality and various types of pollution in the environment. So yeah, it is diverse.
This is a really easy one. It says, is the exam all multiple choice questions?
It is.
Any true and false in there?
There are no true and falses.
Okay.
One rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, rock, paper, scissors. Yeah. Okay, so this one question comes in. It says, with more than 25 years of experience in the transportation and leadership, how does that influence the time dedicated to earning the certification?
I would say, everyone has their own, kind of feel of how they go into taking an exam. And there are some practice questions that are up on, a little practice exam. I think it's 20 or 25 questions that have been retired from previous exams or not used, which would give you a sense of kind of what we ask and how they're asked, and kind of how distractors are how distracting distractors are as wrong answers. So I would take that, and it'll give you some pacing as well on, how long it might take you to go through it all. But it really is a personal thing. Some people I have heard are like, "Oh, I love taking exams." They understand how they're built and they can work through them. They probably are the 1500s on the SAT people. That was not me, but and they don't study too much. They just go with it. Some who've been in the field a long, long time, and I've heard them spending hours and hours a month studying, and then they take the exam and like, whoa, I didn't need to do that much, but they loved learning more about the field. And actually, that's another great piece with these study materials we're hoping that the broader membership just reads these just to learn. There's tremendous value in the information that has been pulled together, by Sarah and through the team, that even if you're not planning to take the exam, it's worthwhile reading those study guides.
Great, thank you. We're going to take one final question. It says, when I did love Sarah's idea, or what she did was that she worked in a small group. That's always a great way to learn. Okay, so here's that last question. It says, when can folks take the exam? And they're excited that you're working on updates. Any projected date yet for when folks can take the updated exam?
Uh, I would, so the exam is available on a rolling basis. People can schedule it. They're all done remotely wherever you choose, home or work. Um, I we haven't nailed down an exact date of when we're planning to launch an updated exam. It would probably be in the early part of next year. Um, and when it's saying updated, it's probably, 15-20% of the questions are either being addressed, adjusted, or replaced and retired. And a lot of times those are also unscored type items, so it may not impact anything in one's ability to pass the exam right now if they wanted to take it. But hopefully first quarter next year.
Great, thank you. Well, Sarah and David, you did a great job. You took lots of great questions, and thank you so much to everybody that submitted questions, both on today's live webinar and during the registration process. If you were excited to hear from Sarah today, she will be doing our next webinar in just a few weeks. Registration will be forthcoming. That webinar is scheduled for November 21st. As I said, please stay connected to the NYSER website. So on behalf of the National Institute for Congestion Reduction, thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, and we'll see you all real soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.